He had tried everything, new diets, new fitness routines, and all the promises that this time it would finally work. But like so many others, nothing seemed to last. Then one day, instead of turning to the newest diet trend, he turned to something far older, far more unusual. He prayed. And what happened over the next 8 weeks shocked even him. He claimed he lost nearly 20 pounds. And here's the part that will really make you curious. He prayed to a saint, to a specific saint. And by the end of this video, I'll share with you the exact prayer that he said, word for word. But before we get there, we have to ask, who was this saint, and why would anyone believe he could help them lose weight? When people hear the word miracle, they often think of dramatic healings, the blind seeing, the paralyzed walking, the dying suddenly cured. And yes, the Catholic Church recognizes those as official miracles. But there's also another side to it. There are the personal devotions, the small stories of ordinary people who experience grace in their own daily struggles. These aren't the kind of miracles that make headlines to enter the history books, but they're real for the people who live them. This story is one of those. Someone online shared how they had been trying to lose weight, couldn't find the discipline, and finally decided to pray. And to their surprise, it worked. The pounds came off, not through magic, but through the strength they found to keep going. But why would anyone pray to a saint about dieting in the first place? That's where the story of St. Charles Borromeo comes in. St. Charles Borromeo was born in 1538 in the Duchy of Milan, into one of the most powerful noble families in northern Italy. From the beginning, he was surrounded by wealth and privilege. His uncle would later become Pope Pius IV, which meant Charles had opportunities that most people could never dream of. And yet, from a young age, Charles was different. He loved books and prayer more than games and extravagance. He had a sharp legal mind, and he studied canon and civil law at the University of Pavia. People expected him to enjoy the life of a nobleman, but instead, he leaned towards humility and service. When his uncle was elected Pope in 1559, Charles was only 21. Almost immediately, he was pulled into the church governance, becoming a cardinal at the age of 22. Most young men in that position would have seized the luxury, but Charles lived with restraint. One of his great contributions was helping to guide the Council of Trent, the massive church council that defined Catholicism in response to the Protestant Reformation. The council had dragged on for years, plagued by delays and disagreements. Charles, still in his 20s, helped organize its final sessions. He pushed for reforms that would change the church for centuries. Better education for priests, a clearer catechism for the faithful, and the founding of seminaries to train clergy properly. It's worth pausing here. Imagine being in your 20s, already helping to steer one of the most important councils in church history. That was the kind of impact Charles Borromeo had, even before becoming Archbishop of Milan. In 1564, at just 25 years old, Charles became the Archbishop of Milan, one of the largest dioceses in Europe. What he found there shocked him. The clergy were poorly trained. Many lived scandalous lives, more interested in money and comfort than in serving God. The faithful were often ignorant of even the basics of the faith. Charles decided to change all of that. He established seminaries so priests could be properly trained. He set up schools and catechism programs for children. He personally visited parishes to inspect them, making sure the reforms of Trent were being followed. He taught that priests should live simply, not in luxury. But his reforms made enemies. Some clergy resisted, others mocked him, and one group of disgruntled monks even plotted his assassination. The story goes like this. In 1569, Charles was praying during evening devotions in his private chapel. Suddenly, an assassin raised an arquebus. an early firearm, and fired it directly at him. The shot rang out. The bullet ripped through his vestments, but Charles was left completely unharmed. Witnesses were stunned. Charles took it as a sign of God's protection and refused to press charges, forgiving the attackers instead. Perhaps the defining moment of his life came in 1576, when plague ravaged Milan. The disease spread like wildfire. Nobles, officials, even many priests fled the city in fear. But Charles stayed. He organized relief efforts, opened granaries, and spent his own family's fortune to feed thousands of starving people every day. He ordered processions of prayer, fasting, and public penance. In one unforgettable moment, he walked barefoot through the streets of Milan with a rope around his neck and a heavy wooden cross in his hand, begging God to have mercy on the city. People who saw him wept. He became the visible shepherd who would not abandon his flock no matter the danger. All of this came from the same source, his personal austerity. Charles practiced what he preached. He ate so little that guests at his table often left hungry. He slept on bare boards instead of a soft bed. He wore a hair shirt under his clothes as penance. He gave away most of his wealth to the poor. Even as a powerful cardinal, he lived more like a monk. His motto was humilitas, humility. This is why centuries later, people still look at him as an example of self-discipline, temperance, and the ability to master one's desires. Charles wore himself out with fasting, penance, and endless work. By his mid-40s, his health was failing. He died in 1584 at only 46 years old. The people of Milan already venerated him as a saint. In 1610, Pope Paul V canonized him officially, and his name entered the canon of great reformers of the Catholic Church. Now, let's circle back to where we started. Why would someone pray to St. Charles Borromeo to lose weight? It's not because he was a doctor. It's not because he ever promised miracles to the dieting. It's because his whole life was about austerity, about resisting excesses, about living simply, about practicing the virtue of temperance. When someone prays to him today, they aren't asking for magic. They're asking for the strength to practice self-control, to resist temptation, to persevere in discipline. And yes, that kind of prayer can be powerful, not because it changes the laws of biology, but because it changes the human heart. In fact, many testimonies from modern Catholics who invoke him say that praying to St. Charles didn't melt the fat away. It gave them the strength to finally stick to their diet or routine. The real miracle wasn't weight loss itself, but the ability to persevere. And now, as I promised, here's the prayer that one man shared online, the prayer he credited with helping him lose 20 pounds. St. Charles Borromeo, help me to control my appetite, practice moderation in all things. Guide me toward health of body and soul, so that I may better serve God and others. Pray for me, that I may be freed from gluttony and strengthened in temperance. Simple, humble, direct, and perhaps that's why it resonates with so many people. It's not about a miracle diet. It's about asking for virtue. So, can a saint really help you lose weight? Or is it that prayer gives us the strength to finally live out the discipline we always needed? Maybe it's both. But the story of St. Charles Borromeo shows us this. Holiness is never about comfort. It's about courage in crisis, humility in wealth, and discipline in desire. That's why, even today, people believe he can help in something as ordinary and yet as difficult as dieting. What do you think? Do you believe a saint can help in everyday struggles like weight loss? Or do you think it's simply about inner strength that prayer awakens in us? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps this channel grow. And it allows me to keep bringing you stories of faith, history, and inspiration.